He insisted on splitting all our bills to keep things fair. I found out he was paying for another girl's rent. I waited until date night. Then I slid a bill across the table for every dinner, trip, and gift I ever covered. Final line: interest charged in emotional labor. I met Ryan in the fall of 2019 at a mutual friend's Halloween party in Seattle. He was dressed as a pirate, complete with a plastic sword and a fake parrot on his shoulder. I was a witch, of course. We hit it off instantly, bonding over our shared love for indie films and Thai food. Our relationship progressed quickly. By January 2020, we were officially a couple. Ryan was charming, attentive, and always had a witty remark ready. He worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company, while I was a graphic designer freelancing for various clients. When the pandemic hit, we decided to move in together to avoid the challenges of a long-distance relationship during lockdowns. We found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, a neighborhood we both adored. From the beginning, Ryan was adamant about splitting everything 50-50. Rent, utilities, groceries, even streaming subscriptions. He called it the fairness doctrine. I didn't mind at first. It seemed reasonable. But as time went on, I began to notice discrepancies. Ryan earned significantly more than I did. His salary was nearly double mine, yet he insisted on splitting everything equally. When I brought up the idea of proportional contributions based on income, he dismissed it, saying, "Fair is fair." I started to feel the strain. While he could afford weekend getaways and fancy dinners, I was budgeting every penny. Still, I loved him and didn't want to rock the boat. Our financial arrangement began to affect our relationship. I found myself declining outings and dinners because I couldn't afford them. Ryan would get frustrated, accusing me of being distant or uninterested. One evening, after a particularly heated argument about finances, I decided to take a closer look at our expenses. I created a spreadsheet detailing every shared cost, every dinner, every trip. The numbers were glaring. I was contributing more than I could afford, while Ryan was living comfortably. I brought it up to him, hoping for a constructive conversation. Instead, he accused me of being ungrateful and trying to take advantage of him. He reminded me of all the times he paid for things, conveniently forgetting that I had covered many expenses as well. Feeling defeated, I let it go. But the seed of doubt had been planted. In late 2021, I noticed Ryan becoming increasingly secretive. He'd spend hours on his phone, often smiling at messages he wouldn't share. He started going out more, claiming he needed alone time. One day, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a message preview. "Thanks for covering rent again. You're the best. Sophie." My heart sank. I didn't know any Sophie. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. I did some digging. Sophie was a 25-year-old aspiring actress who had moved to Seattle recently. Her social media was filled with pictures of her in our neighborhood, sometimes even near our apartment. I confronted Ryan. He admitted to helping Sophie with her rent, claiming she was just a friend in need. When I asked why he never offered to help me financially, he said, "You're independent." I thought you'd be offended. That was the final straw. I decided to take control of the situation. I compiled a detailed invoice, listing every expense I had covered during our relationship: dinners, trips, gifts, and shared bills. I added a note at the bottom: interest charged in emotional labor. I waited until our next date night. We went to our favorite Italian restaurant. Over dessert, I slid the envelope across the table. Ryan opened it, his face turning pale as he read the contents. He looked up, speechless. "I thought you believed in fairness," I said calmly. "This is me holding you to that standard." He tried to argue, but I stood up, left cash for my portion of the bill, and walked out. I moved out the following week, finding a small studio apartment in Fremont. It was modest, but it was mine. Ryan tried to contact me multiple times, apologizing and begging for another chance. I ignored his messages. I focused on rebuilding my life, both personally and professionally. I took on more clients, eventually landing a contract with a major design firm. A year later, I received a letter in the mail. It was a check from Ryan, covering the amount on the invoice I had given him. No note, just the check. I cashed it, using the money to treat myself to a solo trip to Italy, a dream I had put off for years. Relationships should be built on mutual respect, trust, and fairness. When one person consistently takes more than they give, it's not a partnership, it's a transaction. I'm grateful for the lessons I learned and the strength I found in standing up for myself. And to anyone in a similar situation, know your worth and don't be afraid to demand the respect you deserve. 2 months after I cashed Ryan's check, I was sitting at my usual spot in Milstead and Company, my favorite coffee shop in Fremont, working on a logo for a local artisan bakery. The bell above the door rang, and I looked up out of habit. That's when I saw her. Sophie. The Sophie. She was prettier in real life. Tall, strawberry blonde curls, a soft cardigan, and that easy, innocent look some girls just have naturally. She ordered a chai latte and sat down, 2 tables away from me. I stared, unsure what to do. What were the odds? Then she looked up and met my eyes. She smiled. I didn't smile back. But here's the thing, she got up and walked over to me. Hi, she said gently. You're Anna, right? I blinked. How do you know that? I recognized you from the pictures. Ryan showed me some. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Her voice trembled. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat without asking. I swear I didn't know he was with someone. He told me he was single, said you were his ex and still bitter, but that he let you stay in the apartment until you got on your feet. I sat there, stunned. And he made me feel guilty, she went on, eyes glossy, like I was some charity case he was helping because he was a good guy. I didn't even ask him to cover my rent at first. He insisted. She paused, then said the part that made my stomach twist. He did it for other girls too. Sophie wasn't the first, and I definitely wasn't the only. Over the next week, I found 3 more women who had been involved with Ryan during overlapping times. One worked at a bookstore in Belltown. Another was a server at a cocktail bar in Ballard. The third was a woman he dated online, long distance, who believed they were exclusive. We formed an unofficial support group, texting screenshots, receipts, and timelines. Every single woman had a version of the same story. Ryan insisted on fairness, emotionally drained them, then swept in like a hero to rescue someone else. It was a pattern. And I was done letting him skate by. I still had the invoice I gave him, the emotional labor bill. I posted it anonymously on a subreddit for women sharing revenge stories, including every line item, the final total, and of course, the signature line, interest charged in emotional labor. It went viral. Within days, my DMs were full. Some were people cheering me on. Others were sharing their own Ryan-like stories. One message came from a woman who worked in HR at his company. She said the post had made the rounds at work. But here's where it got messy. Ryan saw it too. And he wasn't quiet about it. Ryan sent me a cease and desist letter, claiming defamation. Said I'd ruined his reputation and caused emotional distress. I laughed out loud. Then I got serious. I lawyered up, using the check he sent me as proof that he acknowledged the charges. My lawyer shut down the letter with one sharp response and reminded him that truth is a defense against defamation. The best part? Someone from his workplace reached out again. His behavior was under review. Apparently, one of the women he had helped worked in the same building. She had HR on speed dial now. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Sophie messaged me. She had an idea. Anna, what if we throw a party? Not like a mean-spirited one. Just a celebration. For us. For all the women who survived him. It sounded ridiculous. And perfect. We called it the Emotional Labor Gala. It was held at a rented hall in Georgetown, cheap lights, potluck food, and a playlist full of female empowerment anthems. 12 women showed up. Some brought champagne. Some brought stories. And for the first time since Ryan, I laughed so hard I cried. After the emotional labor gala, I thought I'd finally turn the page. But then I found a sticky note on my windshield the next morning. You think you won, Anna. But you have no idea what you started. At first, I laughed it off. Ryan had always been dramatic when he lost control. But 2 days later, my freelance website went offline. Someone had hacked it, replaced my landing page with a screen that read, "Dishonest women shouldn't be hired." It took my developer friend Liam 2 hours to restore it. The IP address traced back to a burner location, but Liam had a hunch. He ran a background script and found something interesting. The hacker's device had briefly connected from inside a corporate building in South Lake Union, Ryan's office building. It wasn't just petty revenge anymore. It was sabotage. Sophie and I started digging again. We had names now, timelines, patterns. One of the other women, Mariah, said Ryan once bragged about documenting everything in case he ever needed to protect himself. Creepy. So Sophie did something bold. She reconnected with him, said she missed talking and wanted to meet. He agreed without hesitation. She wore a hidden mic. We had it synced through an app to my phone from a coffee shop just down the street. Midway through the conversation, he said something that made my jaw drop. I kept files, on all of you, just in case someone decided to come after me. Screenshots, voice memos, everything. It's all in my cloud. Organized by name. Proof. Liam and Sophie worked like hackers in a movie montage. Sophie distracted Ryan for an entire afternoon under the excuse of catching up, while Liam used the info she'd coaxed out of Ryan to locate his cloud account and crack the password. Guess what his password was? Fairness 2020. We downloaded the entire folder, hundreds of audio files, PDFs, photos. Some were innocent, but others were damning. He had recordings of arguments, out-of-context screenshots to frame himself as the victim, and a spreadsheet titled, Cost-Benefit Analysis of Dating versus Helping. I wish I were joking. We didn't leak the full archive. That would have been illegal. But we did something better. I compiled a summarized report detailing his manipulative tactics with anonymized examples and published it on Medium under the title, The Fairness Fraud: How One Man Weaponized Equality to Exploit Women. It blew up. Articles were written. Podcasts asked for interviews. Ryan? He got suspended from his job pending an investigation. His Just Friends version of events didn't hold up when HR saw the spreadsheet comparing women like line items in a budget. He'd made himself the villain and documented every piece of it. As for me, a woman in Chicago, an editor for a feminist magazine, read my piece and offered me a contract to write monthly essays. It wasn't design work, but it was storytelling and it paid well. The story became my brand. I spoke on a few panels, started mentoring younger creatives, and even launched a digital community for freelancers who dealt with toxic relationships affecting their careers. Ryan's name faded out of the spotlight, but every now and then, I'd get a DM from someone new. I think I dated your Ryan. I'd always reply the same way, tell me everything. Months passed. I kept writing. Sophie moved to LA to chase her acting dreams, and Mariah started a podcast about digital dating disasters. Things felt calm, until one morning, I got an email from a woman named Claire. She said, I found your story. I think we need to talk. It's about the file he had on you. I hadn't thought about the file since the Medium post. I assumed Liam and Sophie had gone through everything. I was wrong. Claire had once dated Ryan years before me back when he lived in Chicago. He had done the same thing to her. When she found out about my post, she dug through the Dropbox backup link still embedded in her old email. And there it was, a file labeled ANA_insurance. Inside? Voicemails of me venting about my money problems. Screenshots of texts I sent during emotional fights. A long, nasty note Ryan had written pretending to be me, bashing another woman. He had forged it, clearly preparing to use it to discredit me if things ever got ugly. He was always 10 steps ahead. I thought I'd won, but I had no idea how close I came to being destroyed. I was furious, hurt, but then ashamed. Because when I looked back at how I handled parts of our relationship, I saw the red flags I ignored. The ways I put off uncomfortable conversations, the way I let resentment build instead of being honest. Yes, Ryan was manipulative, but I had my own guilt too. There was that night I lied to my best friend to spend time with him. The time I canceled a gig last minute because I wanted to prove I could be the cool girlfriend who always showed up. I was so desperate to be chosen, I forgot to choose myself. I didn't go public with the forged file. That would have been a public mess. Instead, I hired a lawyer again. This time, not to shut something down, but to take it to court. We filed for defamation preemptively. We exposed the forged note, used expert analysis to prove it wasn't mine. I included every manipulative tactic, every message and voice file Ryan had secretly archived. It became a civil suit. And this time, HR didn't suspend him. They fired him, permanently blacklisted from the company and several others in their network. The kind of whisper network firing you don't come back from. I didn't want money. I wanted the truth on paper. He offered a settlement. I rejected it. I wanted a verdict. The courtroom was quiet when the judge read the decision. Ryan stood there in a wrinkled suit, bags under his eyes, the mask finally gone. I didn't smile when we won. I didn't clap or cheer. I just looked him in the eye and said, "You documented everything except your own emptiness." And then I walked out. It's been a year. The Emotional Labor Gala is now a yearly event. We call it the Fairness Festival now, a little inside joke. I'm working on a book. Still freelancing. Still healing. I still have bad days, when I replay things I said or didn't say, things I tolerated. But I've learned to forgive the version of me who didn't know better. She did her best. But now, I'm better. And on the final page of my book, the last line reads, "Interest charged in emotional labor and paid in full."